Hey everyone, welcome to this latest episode of the Crypto Leviathan podcast. Today we have a very special guest. He's a longtime friend, and I would argue to say call him a Bitcoin bug, Ephraim Fowler. So welcome, Ephraim. Do you want to introduce yourself to the audience? Let them know who you are and what you do.
Thanks for having me on. Delver and I've known him for a while. We met in high school and we went to university together studying business. So we've known each other for quite a long time. And for me, I started looking at Bitcoin back in university around 2017. That's when things started going crazy. And I started looking at what the reason was that there's a lot of fury going around with Bitcoin at the time. So I started learning as much as I could and really diving into how Bitcoin works and the history of it, because it was really mysterious to me before this point. So I really wanted to get a good understanding for it. So I went and I wrote an exam. I got my certification as a Bitcoin professional. So I wanted to test myself and make sure that I knew a lot about Bitcoin and find a way to really solidify that, show that I had a really deep understanding for it. So I know enough about Bitcoin that I can apply it to business applications. And it was every 2 years I write my exam. So it's something that I have to keep doing. So my last time I wrote it was 2020 in November. So this upcoming year, I need to start really studying a lot and looking at writing that again this year. But I'm really excited about the applications of Bitcoin within the new up and coming industry is really exciting. All the things that we can do with it, just it's things that we can't really comprehend at this time, that things that are going to come out that's just you can't even think of right now.
Awesome. So welcome, Ephraim. So you talked a little bit about the certification. Do you want to explain to people what it is? Because I think a lot of people aren't aware of this.
Yeah, so it's from an organization online. There's the Cryptocurrency Consortium, where there's a group of people. One of the names that is in the crypto and Bitcoin communities, Andreas Antonopoulos, or I can't quite pronounce the last name, but it's Andreas. They wanted to create a structured way of putting together the information where you can test your knowledge and show that you have a good understanding of it, and just have some little bit of credibility behind people's knowledge, so that you can really demonstrate that you have a deep understanding for it. And when you write the exam, they have it tied to the blockchain, so you can show like it's a time stamped on there, so that you can prove that you wrote the exam.
That's
What's
awesome.
the is it multiple choice? What kind of questions are in
Yeah,
the exam?
it's a multiple choice exam. I think there's 100 or so questions, and every 2 years they have updated information on it to make sure that you are keeping up to date with Bitcoin, because it's moving so quickly. There's lots of things that are advancing in the industry, so it just keeps you on your toes, I guess.
So was it a kind of like a self-study course followed by an exam?
Yeah, they have a structure of like what you should know on it, but you can really research about Bitcoin anywhere on the internet, but they just have a few points on there that show you like what things you should know if you want to be an expert. There's 2 levels on there where you can be a Bitcoin expert, where it goes deeper into like the actual coding of Bitcoin and how the code actually works. And the Bitcoin professional is just more basic, more like how Bitcoin works and how you can use it, as opposed to you actually coding it. Because I'm not a coder, I'm not someone that understands the deep coding, but I've seen enough to understand how it works in the general sense.
How long did it take you to go through the whole process?
Well, before I had found out about the certification, I've already been looking into Bitcoin for a few years. So I first got about a year or so. I've already been really researching about Bitcoin. I first wrote in 2018. So at that point, I'd already had at least a year and a half or so of exposure to Bitcoin and researching almost on a daily basis. And by the time that I found the exam, I took maybe a day or so to brush up on what I know, and I wrote the exam, and it was pretty easy for me. I felt like I was over prepared.
Nice. Was there a cost to it?
Yeah, there was a fee. I forget exactly. I think it was like 60 Canadian or US, something in that ballpark. It's like maybe $100 or so.
Did they take crypto as a?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay,
paid with
okay.
crypto. Yeah, of course.
Nice.
They better take crypto. What kind of
Yeah.
Bitcoin course or
Yeah,
certification
that's one
doesn't
of the
take
things.
crypto?
Actually, I think that's the only payment method, because I think you need to like demonstrate. That's part of the demonstration process, that they know that you actually know how to use crypto or Bitcoin in a sense.
Do you know of any competing certifications that cover the same topic or the same information
Um,
from another agency
Not
or
that I've
another?
seen for just Bitcoin. Like I've seen other schools even that have crypto and like blockchain courses. Like I know the University of Nicosia, they have a master's program for digital currency, but that's more general of other cryptos in the industry, not just Bitcoin. But that is kind of a little bit credible to having a whole master's degree for just digital currencies.
Nice. And from what I heard from Dalibor, you're working for a cryptocurrency company now. Was the certification helpful in getting the job?
I think it was a little bit helpful that I was knowledgeable in the industry, but a little bit about my other work history is I have a customer service experience. All my previous jobs, I've worked in the public sector and servicing customers in some way. So part of working, like the company I'm working for right now, it's CoinSmart. I started there. Right now, working as a client success representative. So I work online with customers that are trying to use the platform. So one of the goals at CoinSmart is to make crypto accessible. So that's one of the things that we're trying to do, is make it easy enough for people to just buy Bitcoin and not have to go through all the hurdles of really understanding how it works, that we kind of do some hand holding for the people that need it and give the support for the others that need help using the platform that aren't familiar with computers. Like I'm seeing a lot of the people that I'm talking to directly are elderly, that they have issues with using computers as a whole anyways. So that's one of the things I'm doing right now, is helping people to on board onto Bitcoin and other cryptos.
How old would you say is the oldest client you've had?
I'd say probably like 1939 or so that I've seen.
Oh wow, that's really old.
Yeah, so there's some pretty old people that are trying to invest in the scene,
Nice.
and
So
it's just nice to be a part of the new companies that are popping up. Like CoinSmart is, I believe they started in 2018, 2017 or 2018, and just how many people are really wanting to get into it. And they've been, a lot of people, I noticed that there's a lot of fear in the industry. Like people are very scared of crypto and worry about losing money. And that's one of the things that CoinSmart has really done, is go through the regulation route of trying to work together with the regulators and the jurisdictions that they're working in, and making sure that they're following all the policies and procedures to operate in those places. So we're giving some security and peace of mind to the people that want to invest in the industry, because we are regulated. So it's something that gives them a little bit easier peace of mind, that they have that confidence in the company that they're giving their money to, basically.
that's awesome. So just a couple of questions. So what are some of the perks that you get working with this company, if you're allowed to disclose them?
I don't know exactly what I'm allowed to disclose, but I get pretty good benefits working here compared to where I've worked in the past. Like we have a pretty flexible work schedule, and right now being remote, I can be wherever I want. And being a younger company, they're really trying to have a lot of team building activity. It's been tough with COVID right now, but we recently went public at the end of last year. I believe it was November they went public. So they had a party where they invited all the employees together, where they flew them in if they could, to have a launch party where they distributed some merchandise for the employees, and this other things that have been really exciting, seeing from a new company that they're really trying to grow their employees. within the company and really find the talent and grow with like have the employees grow with the company.
So just a question then, since you work in a customer service role in this crypto space, what kind of scams do you see? Because we know crypto's full of those scams and people trying to take advantage of people. And what advice would you give people who are new to this space who don't really know how to see these scams?
Well, there's lots of different types of scams that even outside of crypto that are happening, like their Canada revenue scams, where they try to get you to pay them what you owe to the kind of revenue agency, but it's not actually them. Like the scammers are also trying to get you to pay money, like the love scams, where they pretend to be someone online and then get you to like fall in love with them and then try to extort you for some messages you might have sent them or something similar to that. And I'm seeing a lot of the people being scammed are mostly elderly. They're so trusting, like it's such a new industry. They don't know who to go to or who not to trust. And my advice to give to anyone would be just do your research online, look up who else might be talking about someone that you're talking to. And with crypto, you shouldn't have to go through a third party to be investing. Like there's like companies that you can go to directly to just buy, like CoinSmart. If you want to just buy crypto, you just buy it on the exchange, and then we manage it for you. You shouldn't have to have someone else overseas managing your money. Like I had a ex coworker from one of my other jobs message me on Facebook that their husband had invested into Bitcoin through a broker in England, and they're having trouble getting their money back. They was asking me advice, and I said, you shouldn't have to go through someone, especially in England, to be investing in money. So just know who you're dealing with and make sure that they can prove who they are, because they're going to try every trick in the book to try to get your money. Once the crypto is sent, there's no way of getting the crypto back once it's confirmed on the blockchain.
Absolutely. And that's what we always advise people is do your research beforehand and take your security precautions, because as we know, any new space, people try to scam, make money off other people's misfortune. And that's definitely something we need to protect ourselves from.
Mm-hmm.
So Ephraim, I know you were earlier in the game than me and Andrew in Bitcoin, and you've been around, you've seen cycles. What advice would you give people who bought at this peak right now and are kind of feeling buyer's remorse, where they lost like 50% of their value? How would you, comfort them or give them some advice?
I would say if you're going to be investing into crypto at this time, you'd have to have a longer time horizon, that you shouldn't be investing for short-term gain, because it is volatile. And when it does go down like it is right now, use that as the buying opportunity when it goes down so quickly and so drastically. Because when I started buying in, I started buying all the way up to the last peak in 2017 when it went up. I saw 1.25 thousand Canadian. And I was buying all the way up to that point, and then when it crashed back down to, I think I saw it as low as 4,000 Canadian after that, and it was really painful to see, because as it was going up, I want to keep putting more and more because it's going up. Then after it started crashing down, it obviously stung a bit, but as it went down, I thought to myself, okay, well, I'm looking to the future and thinking how high the potential could be. So I don't care if it's like 20,000 or 10,000 or 2,000, like I'll keep putting some of it in. And just you've seen over the past 2-3 years, that's really been very exciting, seeing it climb all the way up. I saw it as high as 85,000. So for me, didn't matter what price I bought at the time, now it's still up. So if you're going to be buy for the long term, and don't try to trade on emotion when it goes in really big price swings up or down. Try to just spread out your investment into it and don't go all in all at once.
I think that's excellent advice. So what's your buying strategy? Do you just buy a little bit at a time, or do you do big chunks when it drops? How do you, because I know you're continuously buying. What do you do?
I just buy little bits at a time. I try to not keep any dollars in the bank unless I have to. I just keep whatever I need for bills or whatever, and then whatever's left over, I put in Bitcoin, because think if I don't put in Bitcoin, I'm going to just end up spending it anyways. And I found that the more I try to save, the more and like save into Bitcoin, then the more I'm more conscious about my purchasing decisions. Like I'm thinking that $10 purchase now and in a few years, it could be like $30, $40. Like my very first purchase into Bitcoin, it was $50. And today that $50 is worth like close to $400. So I just think to myself, a $50 purchase today, is it really worth it to me to buy anything, even just like going out for a meal or something? That meal today could be worth like 10 times in the future.
Absolutely. I think remember that guy who spent like 200 Bitcoin to buy a pizza from Domino's or something.
I think it was 10,000 Bitcoin.
Yeah, and that guy, I think he's banging his head against the wall right now. Why did I do this, right?
Yeah, I would be definitely feeling regretful for selling that much Bitcoin for so little.
So how do you manage your finances then? Because it seems like if you have a big purchase coming up, you keep most of your stuff in Bitcoin. So what do you do in that circumstance? Like, let's say you want to buy a car or a house. How would you do that?
There's different ways of going about doing that. If you ideally, if you the person you're dealing with, like if you want to buy a house or a car, that they would accept Bitcoin directly, so I can just send it to them. I don't have to go through the exchange cost of selling it and then getting the cash, or just going through all that work. It would be a lot easier. But there's different services you can use right now to get cash for it. Like you can use a Bitcoin ATM. They're pretty convenient, but the prices or the fees that they charge are a lot higher. Like the spread on the price of Bitcoin between buying and selling is a lot higher. You can spend probably as high as like 10% or so for Bitcoin ATM fees, but it's the convenience factor that you get the cash right away. If you want to go through an exchange, every exchange is different. Some of them have withdrawal fees and some of them have trading fees that are varied by different exchanges. And depending on what kind of bank transfer method you're going to have, it may take some time too, because banks take a few days sometimes to transfer. Or there's one exchange that I know of, they're called Bull Bitcoin. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Bull Bitcoin.
I've heard of them, but please explain to our
audience.
So
they have two sides to their site. There's the exchange side, where it's a non-custodial exchange where they don't hold any of your Bitcoin. So when you make a purchase using dollars, after you fund the exchange, then you have to provide an external Bitcoin address to have the funds sent right away, right when you purchase it. So they don't hold any of your Bitcoin. And then when you want to sell Bitcoin, they have different options. If you want to actually pay for bills, you can actually use your Bitcoin and you sell at a certain price on there, and then they send funds to that biller, just like adding a payee on your banking website. And also you can have the money sent to your own bank account. When you sell the Bitcoin, it gets converted to dollars and you can send it to your bank, so you can get the money transfer there. But again, it takes time with the bank transfer fees. Or if you want to go down the route, there's crypto.com and recently ShakePay. They have now Visa cards, where you have a physical card where you can make payments, or even you want to use that to get cash out of the ATM. They do charge the withdrawal fees, but there's many different ways of going about it, but it just depends on how much you're trying to withdraw and how fast you want it.
Have you used a Bitcoin ATM before?
A few times, yeah. One time I was buying a car and the guy wanted cash, so I had some Bitcoin, so I just used the Bitcoin ATM to take some cash out.
Where was it? At a convenience store?
This was in Toronto. I think it was at a gas station.
Okay. Nice.
It's
I just looked up the closest one, and I forget where exactly it was in. It was in a plaza, and there's a bunch of other stores there.
Not all of them dispense cash, though, right?
No, I don't think all of them do. Some of them are for just depositing, but all the ones that I've seen they had both. You can deposit and withdraw.
What were the fees like when you use? Because I know some fees can go up to like 10, 20%. What was the
the fees that I spent at that time? I think they're like 7%.
Okay, that's reasonable. I know some of them can go crazy. So you need to find, if you're looking to cash out using a Bitcoin ATM, make sure you find one with low fees like this. They're harder to come by, but they're the best
Mhm.
ones because you don't want to be spending 10 to 15%. That kind of defeats the point of investing in Bitcoin, if you ask me.
Yeah, no, it's the fees really start to add up if you don't look really carefully at where you're buying and selling.
Excellent.
Was it an intuitive process? Was it easy to use?
For me, it was. Just for others, sometimes it may not be as straightforward, especially the waiting time for the block confirmation, because it is the ones that I used, they didn't have, like, for example, Lightning option. So it took us some time to get confirmed on the blockchain. And at the time, there's a little bit of congestion in the network. So there's a lot of transactions waiting to be confirmed. So my transaction took like half an hour or so.
Yeah, since you mentioned the Lightning node, do you want to explain what the Lightning node is and how it applies? I think it's a fascinating part of Bitcoin.
Yeah, so the Lightning Network is a layer on top of Bitcoin where it allows for faster transaction and instant transactions as opposed to waiting every 10 minutes for a block. So how the Lightning Network works is there's separate nodes for the Lightning Network where you connect different nodes to each other. So if you want to send a transaction to someone, you have to have a channel either between you and them or between you and someone else that's also connected to that person. So it how it works on top of the main chain is when you open up a channel, you have to fund it with some liquidity in there. So you make a transaction with like a contract with another person. So you lock a certain amount of Bitcoin in that channel to be sent back and forth. So that it gets confirmed on the blockchain once, just so that it's locked into that contract to send to that person. So if I want to send money to Andrew, for example, and then I have a channel just with you, Dalibor, and you're also connected to Andrew, if I want to send to him, I don't need to be connected directly to him. I can send it and then it will go through me or from me through you to him. So the more people in the network, the better it becomes. And with each person in between, each node has a certain amount of liquidity. So depending on the liquidity of the person in between, that also determines where the money goes through and just also how much you're sending.
So essentially, like, let me just explain it from a more technical perspective. It's a layer 2 solution on top of Bitcoin. So
Yeah.
similar how we have like Polygon or Matic for Ethereum. This is basically its implementation on top. And I think another important point we need to touch on is this allows smart contracts on Bitcoin technically, because
Yes.
there's a layer 2 solution and you have these nodes set up. Now you can have, like NFTs potentially even on Bitcoin once the Lightning node gets implemented. So it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I just read earlier today that there already are some NFTs that they're working on the Bitcoin blockchain right now. That there's a lot of space to grow, like, and the whole NFT space is growing. And once people start realizing that you can start doing these things actually with Bitcoin, it's going to really add a lot of value to the just Bitcoin because you can do a lot more things with it.
Absolutely. Like right now, it's just a store of value, but when you build services on top of it, I think people will be much more appealing to use it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the way that the Lightning Network kind of works is kind of like the checking account, as opposed to the Bitcoin on the main chain being like the savings account. Because you don't want to make every single transaction that you make saved on the blockchain. Like if you're just sending like for a little bit of buying like a coffee, for example, that's like $1. That transaction doesn't necessarily need to be saved on the blockchain. It's not really necessary. So when you make that on the Lightning Network, it just alleviates a little bit of the congestion that doesn't need to be on the main chain.
So do you collect fees for each node that goes through to the, let's say I'm a node and I want to send to Andrew and I have to go through you. Do you collect a fee along the way? How does the transaction work?
Yeah, the nodes actually, I believe they can set their own fees that they want, but they're so low, it wouldn't really make sense to charge more fees than someone else because there's probably going to be someone else willing to route the transaction for a lot less. But as the network grows and as liquidity improves, and if you have more liquidity on your node, you can start making money. And especially as the price of Bitcoin increases, the little bit that you're making now is going to start to be worth more and more. So it's kind of worth it if you're making just a little bit of passive income like that. Then you can start increasing your stash just by letting your node process some of these transactions.
And what's the size that we're looking at? What's the smallest node you've seen? Like if people, like let's say like me or Andrew or someone watching the show wants to set up a Lightning node, what's the minimum buy-in? Do you know?
I don't believe there is a minimum buy-in, just whatever the small amount you can send on the main chain, as long as you can lock that in for a channel. And so as small as you can make on a main chain.
That makes sense. But obviously, if you want to process, I assume people aren't going to be.
Yeah, like it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, if you put a penny on there, no one's going to use it, right? So there has to be some reasonable amount.
Yeah, but you can just do $10 or whatever you get, and you can create your own manual connection with people that you want and choose the size of each channel that you want in there. So you could have a large, like one Bitcoin size channel, or you could just have like a $10 worth one if you want.
Got it. Awesome. So there's a couple of things in the news actually today I wanted to cover. So it looks like Google is going to be hiring a team of blockchain experts. So Google is looking to, Google Cloud is looking to expand and hire a whole team of experts. And Amazon's been doing the same thing. So we're seeing a trend where these like big tech companies are trying to get into this space. So what are your thoughts, guys, on this? Because I'm kind of concerned about this just because their systems are very centralized and Bitcoin's very decentralized. I just want to, what do you guys think?
I think there's a lot of room for the industry for lots of participants, like some of the big tech companies right now. Even though that they have their own way of doing things, and some of them have kind of a little bit of monopoly in their own areas, they're going to be able to tie in with like Bitcoin and blockchain in a good way. Like it's not like they can really take it over. They can just kind of piggyback on and use it to do different things. Like what Twitter was doing, they started allowing tipping features with Bitcoin. So that doing things like that where they're attaching their network or their platforms onto Bitcoin and letting you use Bitcoin through their services. So they're kind of getting a lot of users attracted to their systems in that way. So if they don't start adopting or start using Bitcoin and other crypto, they're just going to be left behind.
It doesn't hurt to have these big players jump on board if it drives adoption and furthers the I guess the mainstream usage of crypto. But we went down a brief moment in history where Bitcoin mining was very centralized in China. But since a lot of these companies are American, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that was really interesting to see a lot of the miners go to the US and a lot of them in Texas. But as a whole, I think that was good, because if it wasn't China, it would be someone else. And it was nice that it was another one of the Western countries that they had a place to go to.
US could ban mining as well, and then we'll have to go elsewhere. I don't know where they go next.
Well,
maybe they'll come to Canada.
This is the hard thing, though, about banning in the US. Each state can set their own policy. So there could be states like Washington, New York, or even Texas could ban it. We don't know. One of them could pick, but because it's so decentralized, I think it's going to be a state by state decision whether or not they ban it. And there is actually an interesting thought on that. Arizona wants to make Bitcoin a legal tender, which I found very fascinating. There's a couple senators in there that are actually trying to support this movement. It's been on CoinDesk today.
I saw that.
So I'm really excited by this. It's going to be an interesting loophole. So currently, the US Constitution doesn't allow individual states to create their own legal tender, but because Bitcoin already exists, they are looking to just try to adopt it. So I'm really curious to see that goes. I expect it's going to be challenged in court because I don't think the federal government will like this. What are your guys' thoughts?
I think that's an interesting move, but I think it's just a matter of time before it starts happening. whether it's the US allows this to start happening or people just start doing it on their own, because it's not really anything they can do to stop it. They can make it harder, but at the end of the day, people are going to use it. And if they start making it so that you can't use it, people are just going to start leaving those places where it's not legal anymore.
Absolutely. I think another interesting factor is like we're already seeing this adoption, like more and more places are banning it or pushing for adoption. So it's like we're going splitting, splitting societies, right? It's like some societies will be using Bitcoin, they're all into crypto. Others are like, no, we want to ban this. We want to prevent this from happening. So we'll see what happens in the US. It looks like they're more open to adopting it than other countries. And if the US starts adopting, that's huge. We're talking about Bitcoin maybe being 40,000 Canadian. If a couple US states are adopting it, it could be 10x, 20x by that time, because you're basically adding the whole economies of states that are way larger than in El Salvador, right?
And it's really hard to predict just the price based on anything happening like that. Like the supply right now is on exchanges is all-time low right now. So as people start buying, when like bigger countries start buying it, there's not that much available left, and the price is just something that is really hard to measure until that starts happening.
Well, this is the thing, right? There's only 21 million Bitcoin in the world. So if a big state adopts it, it shoots up because they can't just make more of it, right? The supply is what it is. So they can only go up in relation to like fiat currencies, which I think is one of the reasons why Bitcoin is so popular, is because like we've been seeing like over the past 2 years with the government, constantly printing money and issuing new debt to cover expenses. They can't really do that with Bitcoin.
No, yeah, that's the one thing that I like the most, is that it's not something that is being devalued. Like I don't want to keep money in my account or my bank account because I know it just keeps losing value. So I need to do something with it.
Absolutely. There's actually another interesting thing that there's a lot of news that was coming out this week. So there's a new crypto wallet, cold storage, coming out, a company called it's called the Arculus. So the company makes like some executive credit cards. They're kind of making a credit card style cold storage wallet. They're saying it's more secure than Ledger and Trezor. That is to be seen when it comes out. It's around $100 US. And I guess the cool thing about it is like you can put in your wallet and that you can authenticate it with your biometrics, so like your face and your finger. So we'll see. I think it's pretty cool. I like how others are going into the space because we kind of have a duopoly right now between Ledger and Trezor. So what do you think, Andrew? Andrew, I know we both use Ledger. Ephraim, you have a Trezor, right?
Yeah, I have a Trezor. And actually, my work is going to be sending me a Ledger NOS just for new hires. I'm going to be getting that too. So I'm going to start playing around with the multi-sig setup where I have a little bit more security, where I can set up like 2 or 3 multi-sig where you need 2 signatures to have your funds sent. So I can have them stored in different locations. So I can be a little bit more safe and feel a little bit more secure.
Yeah. Well, once you've tried both, let us know which one you prefer.
Yeah, like so far, like the Trezor I have is the older one. It's not the Model T. I forget what it's called, but it seemed to work pretty good. Had no issues with it. It just makes you feel so much better having everything offline, just knowing that I don't have to worry about anything getting stolen unless it's something of my own error. Like I know I take many precautions. Like I don't even let my phone near my Trezor when I'm unlocking it. Like anytime there's a camera or anything nearby, I don't even chance it. You never know. And make sure, even at my house, if there's windows around, I make sure that it's for sure no one that can look into them. You never know.
A little paranoid, eh?
There's cameras everywhere. People have phone cameras or they have hidden cameras. They have cameras in glasses. I'd rather be safe than sorry.
The boogeyman is watching you, they want your crypto password. Wants your seed.
I want to ask you, the company you work for, are they an exchange? I don't know much about them.
Yeah, they're a Bitcoin exchange. So they have a platform right now. they're a marketplace exchange, so they're like the liquidity provider for transactions. So it's not right now, it's not pure P2P. But that is something I think we just actually got approved for. We're going to be doing soon in the future, where trades happen between person to person on the platform.
Okay, interesting.
There's another service offering too that they offer for businesses that want to accept crypto as payment. You can use CoinSmart to have those crypto payments converted directly to dollars in your bank account if you want. So it's just like a solution for businesses that want to allow crypto payments for their products or services.
Nice. So, Ephraim, what are your thoughts? What are your predictions on Bitcoin? I know you're a Bitcoin bug. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm a really big Bitcoin bull. For price predictions, it's really hard to say, but I see 100,000 not being that much over the next even just 2 years. Like we're in the middle of the halving cycle. Like the last one was May 2020, so we're just in 2022 now, and by 2024, I think that's probably going to be around when we start seeing like numbers a lot higher, because the last bear market lasted about like 2 years or so, and then it jumped up, and we've kind of been in a bull market for about a year or so now. Like August of 2019 was when I think MicroStrategy bought in, and then all of 2020 happened, and then it's been going up quite a bit since then. So I think we're going to have a little bit sideways action for the next maybe year or two. Like it might go back up to where it was before, but all-time highs, I don't know, maybe this year, but not much higher than 100,000.
This is like, I guess, a controversial question. Do you think we're in a bear market right now, or do you think we will be in a bear market? Because I know a lot of people are saying, no, there's still a bull market. There's more adoption than ever before. But people said the same thing in 2017, 2018, and then we had that bear market.
I think, yeah, we kind of are in a bear market. Like we had those two big peaks. That hasn't really happened before. We had those two big peaks so close together like that. So it's kind of, other than the volatile, it's kind of just stayed the same. It hasn't really gone up a lot much more, and hasn't gone down that much more than like what it is right now. Like it dropped down to, I think, 40,000 Canadian, or just around there, and it didn't go that much lower last time it went down slow. So it's been kind of sideways. So it's not really that bearish or that bullish. Like it's just, we've been kind of flat other than the volatile part.
So we don't know where it's going to go, basically. Right?
Yeah, it's probably just going to keep going volatile for the next little while, but over the long term, it's kind of going sideways.
And do you mind explaining to people like what is a halving? Because I don't think a lot of people understand what that is.
Yeah, so in Bitcoin, how the new Bitcoins are created, every 10 minutes for each block, there's Bitcoin that's awarded to the miners who mine that block. So when Bitcoin first started, there's 50 new Bitcoin created every 10 minutes. So every 4 years, or 210,000 blocks, that the reward for each block gets cut in half. So this is going to keep happening every 4 years until the full 21 million Bitcoin is dispersed into the system. So we've already gone through a few halvings in the past. The last one was in 2020. And right now we're at 6.25 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. So we went from 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes to now we're at 6.25 Bitcoin.
And then the one that's going to happen in 2024 is going to be half of that as well, right?
Yeah. So that's the inflation rate for Bitcoin right now is about like 1 or 2%. So it is, we still have the inflation in the system because it's still new Bitcoin, but that's going to be even less after the next halving.
How many Bitcoin are outstanding?
Right now, I think we just passed 18 million, or around 18 million right now.
Back to what you were saying earlier, Dalibor, would you say that, or what amount of the current bull market was attributed to people being locked down at home and having nothing else to do.
Well, that's the question everyone's asking, and whether it's a stock market, whether it's crypto, housing market, no one really knows. I'm willing to bet that it was inflated partially by it, but I still think it was a natural bull cycle regardless. So maybe the peaks got like 10-15% higher than they were supposed to, but that's as much as I think. I don't think anything else would have changed because of that.
There's a lot of different things right now happening. Like there's the ETFs that they were trying to get approved. Like they did get the futures ETF, but they weren't able to get the spot ETF. So that, I think, also has an effect on the price when they started doing the futures ETF.
Yeah, ETFs open it up to like the stock market and mainstream investors. But the thing is, like with ETFs, it's kind of an indirect correlation, right? Because there's always an imbalance, right? Because a lot of people can, for example, buy the ETF, it shoots up in value, but they don't own that much Bitcoin, right? So there is a little bit of an imbalance there. It's not a perfect system. I think
I agree.
if you want to invest, you should definitely invest in Bitcoin itself, because that ETF, what's the point? You can anyways buy the Bitcoin.
That is, with the ETF, it allows for some people to use some of their tax advantage savings accounts or investment accounts to invest in it indirectly, because some of them can't invest directly and buy Bitcoin. So it does open the gates for some people that want to invest but don't have any other option.
That's been changing though, right? I think there's been like a couple, I think Wealth Simple and like Robinhood, don't they have options for like your savings account or TFSA to like buy Bitcoin or Ethereum or something like that?
Lately, it has been getting easier for people to invest in it using those different methods, but for some areas, it's still kind of hard to get into that.
So I guess the point is it's becoming easier, but we're still at the beginning of this curve. It might take few more years before it becomes a mainstream option to actually be able to invest through your TFSA, for example.
Yeah, it's going to still be a little bit of time before some of the money starts flowing in there.
Awesome. So is there anything like in Bitcoin that particularly excites you? Any type of projects? I know you mentioned the Lightning node, but is there any like smart contract NFTs, like particular projects in there that you find really fascinating?
I haven't seen a lot of the NFT side of it. Just today, I saw just a little article about they're doing just some of the similar stuff that's going on in the NFT space right now. That's kind of the same, but just they're doing it on the Bitcoin, just in its own little twist. Like not the same, like kind of like the Bored Ape NFTs that are going around. There's similar ones like that, but they're just slightly different, like different artistic style, like more pixelated, and just some like animated ones. But I think it's kind of similar to the regular art world too, where it's not necessarily the art piece that makes it valuable. It's kind of like the story behind how it's created and kind of who the artist is, not just like what's a picture and that's valuable because of the hype. It's actually from someone that people care about and they actually want something that's theirs that they created. But in terms of things that are happening in the space that really excites me, one of the things that's most exciting to me is the Lightning Network. Just I've seen it grow over the past few years. Like I had a node set up back in 2018. That's on my journey of getting as much knowledge about Bitcoin as I could. And it was really early back then. Like I think it just had been implemented in 2017. Like they just started activating the Lightning Network. So it's really grown over this past year, and just seeing the amount of adoption happen, the amount of liquidity on the whole Lightning Network has really started growing almost exponentially. So just some of the applications you can start doing on it are what really fascinate me, with how quickly you can send the Bitcoin and the smart contract capabilities. Like for example, you can send money to someone in certain intervals. So if you want to send money, like pay someone for doing a service or hire someone to do a job, you can have them paid as they work as opposed to having paid them at the end of the workday or at the end of the week or
Wait,
every
so
2
are you
weeks.
saying you're able to do like a subscription service type of model with Lightning Network?
Yeah, so the money, you can program it to have it sent to someone at certain amounts and at certain frequencies.
Oh,
So like
that's
even for
huge.
example,
That's
like
huge.
yeah, that's really big where money is moving a lot faster and you have a little bit more control over when you get money or how you send money out.
So like, is there any other networks that do this? Because I don't know like any others that you can do that programmatically where you can just schedule to spend money like that.
Um, I don't know if Litecoin might also have the Lightning Network on there too, because it is very similar to Bitcoin, because Lightning is a fork of Bitcoin. So there's a lot of similarities there. And some of the upgrades that Litecoin and Bitcoin have had, Litecoin has actually had some of the upgrades before Bitcoin. So some people have mentioned that Bitcoin is, or Litecoin is actually kind of like the test network for upgrades that they're going to do in Bitcoin, because there's some very similar upgrades that they both have.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So basically, we can replace the entire financial system that we have right now with the Lightning node, technically, right? Because we can schedule payments, transactions, bills, etc. And
Yeah,
interesting.
we can start being a lot more efficient too with our money. Like for example, if you want to pay for your internet service, you pay a flat fee if you, depending if you have unlimited internet, you pay a flat fee, and then you get internet for 30 days or whatever for the month. And it doesn't matter how much you use it, you still pay the same amount. But how would it be if you only wanted to pay as you use it? So you could, with like theoretically with the Lightning Network, you can be charged as you use it and have that money sent to them in real time as you're using it, and only pay for what you use. So in some cases like that, you might be able to save money because if you only use it a little bit and you agree to a certain rate that you pay as you use it, you don't have to waste a whole month worth of fee just for using it a little bit of the time.
For scheduled sends, could that not be solved at a wallet level?
Like on the main network,
Either.
I guess you could on the main network, but you're limited to every 10 minutes on the blockchain, and also the fees for sending them, it's not really worth doing on the main layer.
Yeah,
And with the Lightning Network, you can actually send sub-Satoshi quantities of Bitcoin. So you can send less than 1 Satoshi.
so you could technically infinitely divide it then, right?
To a certain degree, it's not infinitely divisible at this time. And also, you have to keep in mind, if you're going to take any of the funds off of the Lightning Network back onto the main layer, those fractional Satoshis aren't going to all come through. You're just going to round to the lesser amount.
I think a fractional Satoshi sounds trivial at the moment, but if Bitcoin hits $1 million or 10 million, then it starts making sense.
Yeah, like at this time, it's not really necessary, but as it starts growing, it makes sense. And it's not really something that has the same effect as inflation, where if you keep creating more of something that devalues the rest, it actually makes whatever already exists worth a little bit more.
Does Bitcoin need this layer 2 solution, or will it be something like Ethereum? Because I know Ethereum has Polygon, but with Ethereum proof of stake happening, they're kind of taking the features Polygon offers and implementing them. Is that possible on the mainnet for Bitcoin to adopt like Lightning node, or is that not feasible?
I think the Lightning Network on Bitcoin is the way to go for payments. Like there's going to be other applications that Ethereum and their solutions are going to solve. But for me, I am a big believer of Bitcoin's mining algorithm using proof of work. I just have more trust in that type of system of creating coins, that you actually have to put in real life work, and like electricity, there's like a real world aspect to it where it's not just all the digital. Like you need to put in real world resources to get something digital. So that's part of, to me, that really gives Bitcoin the value, is how hard it is to create.
So the argument that a lot of people use against proof of work is that it's not environmentally friendly. So what do you say to people who make that argument?
Well, it depends on where you're getting electricity from, but when you're mining Bitcoin, you want to get the cheapest electricity you can, and because the cheaper the electricity, the more money you make, and this pushes a lot of miners to find the cheapest electricity. And oftentimes, the cheaper electricity is in places where there's excess electricity. So there's energy that's being produced anyways, but it isn't being used, so it's being wasted. And there's a lot of miners going to these places where they can use this excess energy for cheaper than anywhere else because it otherwise just go to waste. And renewable energy is cheaper in the long run because after a certain point, you're just free electricity. So you're making money without having to spend any costs ongoing.
Absolutely. So what do you see like a proof of stake? Do you see any issues with it? Like particularly the why you're so strong with proof of work?
Well, it's a different, it's not the exact same solution. Like Bitcoin is more the money, and Ethereum is a network that you build other applications on top, like all the different coins that people can create on there. So just a different type of network, with different solutions. They're not both trying to be money. And even right now, like the fees on Ethereum are really high, so it's not really solving the same problem that Bitcoin is. So they're just two different coins that they have different problems that they're solving. So it's not really fair to compare both of them using the same metrics.
Perfect. So your explanation would be Bitcoin treated as like the store of value, and Ethereum's
Yeah,
kind of like, oh, like the oil or like the energy, right, to build networks upon.
yeah.
Okay, I think that's a good explanation. Is there any other coins that you particularly invest in besides Bitcoin, or any that you dabble in or you think are interesting?
Or
Um,
NFTs.
I haven't bought any NFTs, but I have just played around a little bit with like Polkadot, Cardano. I think maybe Uniswap, and I think one other one in there. But just recently, I just put like a few $100s in a few of them just for fun. But majority I have is like Bitcoin, a little bit of Ethereum, and a bit of Litecoin. Because Litecoin, I think it's really undervalued too because of how similar it is to Bitcoin and the amount of supply that it has. Like it's supposed to be like the silver to Bitcoin, where it does have faster transactions and cheaper fees at the moment. So I still see value in there. Like it is something that has a lot of potential, and it hasn't gone up uh, even to its all-time high this past bull cycle. And I think there's a lot of room for it to grow. So I have a lot of faith in that one.
Why do you think that is? Because like we've seen that also in the gold and silver market, like gold has gone up, silver has not gone up as much. Do you think it's just people want like the real top thing and they just kind of forget about the secondary choice?
Well, this time around, I think the crypto market kind of piggybacked on the meme stocks and all that was going on. And Dogecoin was like one of those memes that they were creating a big frenzy over, and then it became Shiba Inu. So a lot of the other cryptos that have been around for a while, like Litecoin, I think it just didn't really seem like it had that much potential to grow at the time because everyone's looking at just the individual unit prices, and people want to own a lot of something. So when you see like Dogecoin, I remember it was at like 0.0026 of a dollar, and then it went up to, I think it hit a dollar this past bull cycle. So when you see something so cheap, when it's not even a penny, and then they can buy a lot of it, and then people just like having that feeling of owning so much of one thing, and it became a meme. Like everyone had Dogecoin, and then it just started going up. And then Shiba Inu was even, because it was so new too, and there's a lot more supply of that one. Each unit was like way less, so you can buy way more of it. So part of it too, people just want to own a lot of something and hope that if that goes up, then because they own more, they're going to be making more money. But you have to also look at the supply of these things that you're buying, because just because you own a lot of something, but if there's a lot of it out there, it's probably not going to be worth that much. And with Dogecoin, there's an unlimited supply. Like there's a limit for each year, but unless the supply schedule changes, the code changes, every year there's going to be new Dogecoin, and it's never going to end.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point to know, is just because you own a lot of something doesn't mean it will have value, right? I could own 1,000,000 a Shiba Inu, but it won't even be worth like $1, let's say, hypothetically.
Yeah. And that's one thing too about the crypto space that the regulators are trying to do is protect the consumers. So at CoinSmart, for example, they don't allow you to buy more than, I believe it's $30,000 worth of all the cryptos except for Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin Cash. For those ones that I just mentioned, you can buy as much as you want, but all the other cryptos, there's a limit how much you can buy, because a lot of the cryptos are so new, it's really hard to say what's going to happen to them, if they're actually worth anything, or if it's just hype, and if it just disappears. You don't want to lose all of your money on something that isn't been around for a while.
Absolutely. Well, we're approaching time, Ephraim. Thank you so much for coming to this podcast. We had a great discussion.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back sometime later on. I think this space is moving, so there'll be so much to talk about in a few months.
Yeah, no, definitely.
All right. Stay tuned for the next episode. We will have probably another interesting guest. Take care, everyone.